boys and girls, to season 6, episode 20. 20 freaking episodes of this, Joe. Do you believe this crap? Everyone actually watches this crap. I don't believe it. Episode number 20 here on Isles Talk. And with this tonight, been a long time coming. He's had hockey games. We've had other things going on. We get it. It's a busy week for him. One of the busiest Islander beat writers ever. Mr. Stefen Rosner. First off, welcome to Isles Talk and happy belated birthday.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for having me. I know we've been trying to get it to work, so I'm glad we got it to work tonight.
Absolutely. So listen, folks, we've got Stefen for a little while here. What we're going to do is a little bit of a rapid fire, but we're also going to have everyone in the chat room give out your answers as well, because we want them. We want to get your opinions as always. So starting off real quick, Stefen, trade deadline. We said goodbye to Brock Nelson. Do we want to tell people how old you are?
Yeah, 27.
All right, 27. First off, Stefen doesn't know this yet, or he may or may not know this yet, but if you have true friends, you're now 30, bud.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone just moves you up from 27 to 30.
Yeah.
Having said that
Go ahead, Paul.
No. We're short on time. I will bust your balls later. Well, no, actually, I will take this shot. Joe is ancient compared to the two of us. He would have a longer list. But genuinely, where does Brock Nelson rank for you personally among Islander centers?
All time we're talking about?
All time for you personally.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being 27 and not ancient, no offense.
There you go.
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, I guess for my age group, John Tavares has to be up there, obviously, for what he did for this franchise. But if you're talking about longevity, I mean, I grew up watching Brock Nelson. The fact that I get to cover him that means a lot. A lot of these guys in this group I get to cover, I watched growing up. For Brock, I mean, he's been a staple. He's been a staple my entire childhood growing up, essentially, and he's been there now, and he's gotten better and better. So I think that even helps him out more. So he's probably, for me, and just for me growing up, probably number 2 behind Tavares, and just in terms of what he meant to the franchise. Obviously, the fact that he's still here maybe gets a leg up on John, just because he's also still doing it at how he finished. Exactly. I think it's very different the way Brock handled this. Especially John. I didn't get to cover John Tavares, but the way Brock and all the media never promised that he wanted to be here, never said, don't move me. He was pretty open and honest. So I think he gets some more extra bounty points for that.
Beautiful. Joe, in all seriousness, Brock has got to finish somewhere for almost every Islander. If you're going to go back with like Islander historians, top 7, maybe top 5, depending on the personal opinion. Give me your thoughts real quick on Brock Nelson and his career from your perspective.
Well, I go way back to the beginning. So
yeah, we know.
No, I would definitely put him thank you. I would say he's definitely in the top 5 or 6 as far as centers go. You have some you have a few big names in front of him, but he had a very good career as an Islander. Who knows if he comes back? But I would say that's a fair spot to put him in. I would put him. Absolutely. I would put him in the 5 hole as far as Islander center.
That's absolutely fair. And for those of you in the chat room, leave your personal ranking for Brock as an all-time center here, because we do love him. We're going to miss him and everything else, but we're going to move on here from Brock to a degree. Stefen, there is no Brock Nelson left. We did not pick up anyone for the immediate help at the trade deadline. We will not have Matthew Barzal, to our knowledge, probably for the rest of this season. You did have a great article in the Hockey News about who needs to step up, and I wanted you to rehash that a little bit. Give me a player or 2 or someone else you may not have brought into that, after this West Coast trip, there may be another player you want to see step up.
Yeah, I think if we were talking about recently, I mean, last night, Maxim Sipilkov had a tough game. Patrick Waugh calls him out, but this is the guy that was brought in to score. And while the points haven't been there, I think his game fits a top 6 forward game. I don't know if he could play center, but in terms of just, you need to see some more consistency from him, especially in the offensive zone. Now, I know his line mates impact that, and he's a guy that needs to play give and go and speed and open up the ice. And I thought Pierre Engvall being on his line actually would help him a little, just in terms of speed and generating. It didn't really work out too well. So I have Sipilkov there. Duclair's looked a lot better these last couple of games. I think his speed bursts are back, and that's kind of what got him the contract. One of the reasons why I wanted to bring him here is because of that speed. And we obviously know if he doesn't have that speed with the injury and just inconsistent play, then he kind of becomes useless if he doesn't have that number one skill set in his arsenal, playing to the best of his ability. So those were 2 guys. But I thought Noah Dobson, he was the one defender I had on that list because we saw it last year. 70 points, 10 goals, 60 assists. We haven't seen the offense this year. The game was inconsistent. He had the injuries, but they need him to produce. They need him to produce offensively, especially with maybe not playing alongside Romanov as much. I know he got a couple of shifts last night with him. If he's playing with Adam Pelech, he's got to bring the offense. And the power play. What was it? 9.6% on the road this year. Worst in the NHL. It wasn't for a little bit. Now it's back to being the worst. I mean, you need to see Dobson be that guy. Tony DeAngelo has looked okay recently. He hasn't been as good as he was to start, even with him being on the top of the power play. It hasn't been great. So you want to see Noah Dobson really bring that offense back, whether it's secondary assists or primary assists or goals. It doesn't matter as long as there's goals. So I would say Dobson's probably the biggest on the list to help. If the Islanders want to push for the playoffs, they're going to need offense, and I think Dobson needs to be a big part in that.
Joe, that's a big hill to climb there to get back into the playoffs. Give me your 1 or 2 players who you think need to really step up their game.
Romanov's got to stop turning over the puck. I'll just say it quickly. Duclair, I want to see him step up his game, which he has been doing. And I just want to see Sorokin become a steady goaltender, not a streaky goaltender, a steady goaltender. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. For me right now, I just want to see every younger player step up. It's pressure time. This is the most pressure they've had or probably experienced. I want to see how they handle that pressure. I want to see how they grow. I want to see how they mature. But I also want to see the younger players succeed, because without Brock, without Barzal, these kids have got to find their own role, because, as Lou had said before, changes are coming, and that could still include some of these younger players who need to show Lou and Patrick Waugh that they are going to be NHL players. So I think it's a little combination of all those young players. So I agree with all the 2 of you with all of your picks. So listen, Stefen, the season ends. Lou, as we just said, promising some changes in the off season, and this is an open-ending question here, and this is for everyone else in the chat room. Should Patrick Waugh remain a lame duck coach? Just your personal opinion from what you've covered the team so far, what this team's been through this year. With the changes coming, give me your thoughts on Patrick Waugh. Should he be a lame duck coach moving forward?
Yeah, I think Patrick Waugh had a job to do last year, and that was to come in and bring some emotion, fire, and get a group that struggled on their lane to be consistent, get them into the playoffs, and really wake a lot of those guys up. And he did that job. And we all said, okay, full year under Patrick Waugh. Training camp, things should be a lot better. Unfortunately, obviously, injuries play a part. Then you look around the league, the Islanders probably got it the worst, especially when you don't have elite talent, losing the guys that they lost. Most teams probably don't even have a shot at making the playoffs. So I guess kudos to the Islanders, even though they've blown leads, there's reasons why they're out of the playoff spot. Like, that's played a huge part. However, that emotion and that fire, we haven't really seen too much on the bench during games. We've seen a lot of the same issues that were problems last year in the second half be an issue now. The power play, even the penalty kill at times, breakouts, energy, things that were lacking when he took over when Lane was struggling sort of seem to still be issues. And that's a problem. I think Patrick Waugh can be a great coach. I think he needs a little bit more weapons and a team that's more suited to his structure. I always talk about this a lot. I think it plays a drastic impact in Waugh and his future with the team is when Barry Trotz got here. He obviously had a system and idea of what he wanted to play, but he looked at the roster and said, okay. Well, when I asked him this, when he came back for the first time after taking the job in Nashville, he said the offense wasn't as good as I thought they were, and the defense wasn't as bad. That's why he went the defensive mindset, defensive approach, and it worked. Lane Lambert tries to open up the offense a little bit. struggles with that, goes back to the defense. Patrick Waugh comes in and says, I'm going to play a fast game. We're going to be more offensive. We're going to be respectful defensively, but we're going to play this fast breakout style of game. If you can't play, you're not going to play. Now, unfortunately, this roster is not completely built for that. One, they're aging. The defense are big body. I mean, Ryan Pulak regressing kind of to more of a Scott Mayfield guy. That hurts. The injuries to the back end. Dobson struggling. I mean, Romanov's been a great bright spot in terms of him turning into a number one defenseman. But a lot of the issues that were there before Waugh got here, this team still isn't built to play that way. So Patrick Waugh being a lame duck, I think Patrick Waugh is going to be back. I think this, when you hear him talk and you hear the players talk, especially the younger guys, even Barzal, it's about building towards something. So I think Patrick Waugh will be back. However, I think he has to do a better job as well, whether he's running the power play or penalty kill. He has to leave his mark because things have to change. And I'm not blaming the entire power play struggles on John McClain, because I think there is a sense in saying, look at all the power play coaches that have been here. The power play has not been good. I mean, my whole life, I don't think the power play has been over 22%. If we're doing that,
you're not wrong.
And especially
Joe had hair when the power play was good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, a lot of it's on the players, but at the same time, at some point, a coach has to figure this out. And I think that's on Waugh. As much as he doesn't control it, it's on Waugh to just try something else. I think Islander fans wouldn't mind the power play struggling is different personnel were out there, maybe a different structure, maybe someone other than a defenseman at the point. Put a Barzal was healthy, try Barzal at the point. Try different things. If that doesn't work, that doesn't work. But I think the problem here is that too many things have been left stagnant or completely the same. And the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and hoping it would change. It's not. So if Waugh is back, which I expect to be back, I want to see him try different things, especially with the power play, because look at all the great teams that are in the playoffs. A lot of them win the special team battle on a nightly basis. You look at last night against the LA Kings. I know they scored 2 that didn't count, but 0 for 8. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a killer. The LA Kings gave the Islanders every single chance to beat them in their home arena where they have 7 total losses the entire season. I think there were 20-something, 3-4. They gave you the prime opportunity to win that game, especially losing the Ducks game. And you lose that game because your special teams loses that game. Allowing the 2 short-ended goals doesn't help either. So for the Islanders to make the playoffs or want to be a team that's taken, as a realistic playoff team every year, you have to win some games because of the power play and special teams. And unfortunately for the Islanders, they haven't been able to do that. And I do put a little of that blame on Patrick Waugh.
Joe, we were talking about this before. Patrick Waugh, the coach, that whole sexy name, former Montreal great, Stanley Cup champion, seems to be wearing off now, despite, the injuries with the Islanders, and it's everything Stefen just said.
Right.
Do you have a short leash for Patrick Waugh heading into next year? Obviously, we know there's going to be changes, but if there's changes to Patrick's liking, do you like the idea of Patrick Waugh, remaining coach heading into the future for the Islanders?
Well, let's go back a little further. When the Islanders first brought him into the picture, like we said, it was a sexy move. You're bringing in the name, but we both said we didn't like a goaltender being a head coach. I mean,
right.
A head coach. But it's not like baseball, where the catchers or the managers, they see the game from a different perspective. It's not the same with goaltenders. For some reason, I think a defenseman or like a grinding forward, a tough forward should be
with a two-way game, right?
Right, should be the head coach. But I don't know if, like we said, we felt next year the team's going to look different. Okay, we said that before the trade deadline. We said that back in January. Right. He's got to make moves. If you're going to make these moves, I say you got to change the coaching staff too. If you're going to bring in all new personnel, then revamp the whole thing.
Right.
That's my call. I mean, I just can't. But I don't know if you agree with me, Stefen, but to me, the players just don't seem motivated under him. They played. I can't explain it. Like Paul, we watch the games. There's something missing. There's that fire, that intensity. You know what I mean? I mean, you see a team like Columbus come in and they grind you down. We just don't have that. that toughness, that fight in us.
Well, yeah, Ross Johnson's on Anaheim. That's the problem here. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, I'm saying,
No, but
that's
yeah.
part of it too. That's part of it. Absolutely.
I think you make a great point about, if we know that we believe that Waugh has not a say, but Waugh and Lou are talking, and when Duclair gets brought in and some of the defensemen brought in, they fit what Waugh wants, right? Adam Boquist, Scott Prunovich, Tony DeAngelo, mobile defenders who can carry the puck, make plays. Waugh needs that. If Raw's system's going to work, he needs that. Duclair, of course, he gets hurt, but Duclair, in the sense of what he brings, is exactly the kind of player Waugh wants. A guy like Engvall, for example, not to pick on Pierre, but every time you talk to Waugh, I mean, you heard him the other day in the press conference. What do you want to see from him? He sighs because the same story with Engvall. He wants to see Engvall be physical. Well, Engvall's never been physical. And Waugh has him on the roster. He's got to play him, but that's a clear player that doesn't fit what Waugh wants. I wouldn't be shocked this summer if they buy Engvall out or trade him at the draft, whatever it is. But if you're going to build the roster around what Patrick Waugh wants, you got to keep Patrick Waugh. If you're also not going to do, or Lou's not going to say, hey, maybe you like this guy, I want this guy. Well, if it's not going to give Patrick Waugh the ability to play the system he wants, there's no point in keeping Patrick Waugh around. You're just wasting years on Barzal, wasting another year of Holmstrom. So if you either have to go 110% in on Patrick being your guy and build a roster around him, because adding one piece this summer or two pieces, getting rid of one or two pieces, I don't think it allows Waugh to shine. I mean, look at Lane Lambert. I think he got the short end of the stick, and I think a lot of fans owe him an apology because, one, he wasn't put in a position to succeed. And number two, the way he wanted to play, he didn't have the players. And he was taking a team that was so Barry Trotz mentally and physically, like they're going to play that way. And you're asking a first-year coach to break veterans down again, essentially build them back up, which you thought Waugh would do. But what you're realizing is that Waugh has done it for a couple of players. Some players have bought in. Matthew Barzal playing a smarter two-way game and leading the league in takeaways and being more defensively minded. We've seen what Barry Trotz effect on Brock, and that's helped out. We've seen Kyle Palmieri get rejuvenated under Patrick, but there have been some players who just have struggled. Pulak and Pelech are guys, they haven't been healthy, but they've struggled. Noah Dobson struggled when Patrick Waugh took over a little bit. So you've seen some players take strides, some players not, but some of the players that haven't taken strides need to if they're going to be effective under Patrick. So I think if he is the guy, Lou's got to have him in his ear the entire free agency, entire draft, and building this team the way he wants. Because I just think Patrick Waugh has a certain style he has to play, and he's not going to deviate from his game plan regardless of who he has. And if that doesn't match the players you have on your roster, you have a very hard time consistently winning in this league.
Absolutely.
All right. So speaking of winning in this league, we're going to talk playoffs real quick, and this is going to be NHL related, not so much Isles related. Sorry, Isles fans. Stefen, are you a 1 through 8, or are you a interdivisional playoff fan? What is your style? What do you want to see?
No, give me 1-8-2-7. I want to see that 8 underdog go against the best of the best and give him hell. Like we love sports because we love that underdog story. And I think if you're an Islander fan growing up, that's, they've been underdogs every time they've ever made the playoffs. So you just love that. I just think, I know Gary Bettman's talked about it, how he likes it the way it is. He doesn't want to fix anything, but I just think that's the way it should be. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah. Joe, go ahead.
Well, I don't think Stefen was born yet. I don't think you were born yet, Paul. 1 through 16.
No, I wasn't.
If it wasn't for the travel, I would love to see 1 through 16 again. That was amazing hockey.
There was a lot of traveling there.
Oh, a lot of upsets too.
Were there only 18 teams back then, or we? I'm kidding.
Here we go.
Oh, he's not. That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Stefen, you can come back in anytime. Come back to the show anytime you want. Just to bust this stuff. Absolutely. Listen, there's a part of me that still loves this divisional rivalry. And before the show, folks, we were going through the matchups like right before this show, and I got to tell you, I can't wait, gentlemen, for Colorado and Dallas to go absolutely bonkers in that first round. I know a lot of people would probably want to see that in like maybe a conference finals or whatnot, but if everybody's fresh and ready to go, I want to see the best of the best go at it in that first round and let them all work their butts off for it to get to that Stanley Cup. There's pros and cons to everything. I agree. Well, Stefen, let me ask you this. Do you think there's going to be like a play-in like they do Major League Baseball at some point? We know Gary won't do it, but after Gary resigns, are you in favor of a play-in?
I don't think we need more teams. I think that's the problem with a lot of sports. You get caught in, you don't have to be good enough. So there's less of a reason to go nuts at the deadline or go nuts. And like, if you just have to be mediocre. And I think we want the best product. We want the best teams making it, right? I think in baseball, I'm a big baseball guy. Too many times you look at some of these divisions and go, these teams are terrible. And I think we reward mediocrity when we do that. And we reward teams not having to go 110%. I don't love that, especially hockey too. It's the greatest sport because any team really can beat any team. An 82 game season's long enough. Same way baseball, 162. You shouldn't have playing games or wild card games. Like the best team should make it. So I'm not in favor of having more teams get in. I know what we had with the play-in series, essentially with the bubble and the Islanders taking down Florida. But yeah, I just think there's already enough teams making the playoffs. I don't think we have to work because there's a lot of teams that are bad too, that don't get better. I know they're trying, but they just don't get better every year. And I don't really want to reward, hey, you don't have to focus on being that good to get it. I think that's what makes hockey special because the teams that it's a dogfight to the end. We look at the wild card race last year in the East. It's always down to the last game of the season. So I'd hate to be like, oh, 6 teams fighting for it the last week. We're going to reward 4 of you guys. Like, I don't know. I'd rather see that not happen.
Fair enough. So listen, I know we have you here a little extra longer. We're going to go one final question here. And this is a personal opinion. This is nothing, no inside or whatever. So, Tom Boyle, relax. This is not happening. Relax. Okay. Yeah, we got to deal with Tom too.
Yeah, we get it.
We all have to deal with Boyle.
He's the best.
He's a regular.
free agent wish list. Now, I'm going to expand on this later on, but it doesn't matter how old you are, folks. The Islanders are going to have roughly $10 million, give or take, without Lou making any kind of changes yet. That's a substantial amount of money that all of us as Islander fans really haven't experienced in a very, very long time. Stefen, who would you like the Islanders to go after? Who do you really want to see the Islanders sign? And what would it mean for you as an Islanders fan to finally kind of feel like the Rangers? You're going out there and you're really purchasing a big free agent. What is that for you? And who's on your list?
Yeah, I'll start with the list. I mean, obviously there'll be a lot more teams fighting for free agents because the cap's going up exponentially. So but I think number one's got to be Mitch Marner if he does make it there. I think it's a guy. One, him and Matt Martin are really close. And whether Matt Martin's playing or not, I think Martin's going to have a role in this organization going forward and play a part in that.
I'm gonna do this. If we sign Marner, we're gonna sign Matt Martin to a 1-year deal just to get him his 1,000 games, and we're gonna call it even. He'll be a coach right after that. No doubt. There's no tampering, none at all.
Not at all. I think Mitch Marner. I just think he'd be a great fit here. Again, brings that speed. I think he gets the short end of the stick in terms of playoff production. When Matthews disappears, they always blame Marner. I just love his mobility and the playmaking, and he's probably just a better all-around player than Barzal. He can finish as well, but I think those two guys being on separate lines automatically makes your top 6 way more dynamic. I also think the Islanders are going to separate Horvat and Barzal. So you're looking at getting another winger or two to each play with those guys. I think Marner's great. Nikolai Ehlers is somebody who I'm assuming he'll test free agency with Winnipeg. They obviously weren't going to trade him given their playoff standings and needing him for the playoffs, but he's a guy the Islanders had interest in at last year's draft. It didn't happen. Obviously, the Islanders make the picks. They draft Cole Eiserman. But Nikolai Ehlers brings that speed, and when he's not hurt, he's ultra consistent. I think he's averaging over a point per game player. He's a finisher, that raw speed that you want. And then third, let's think here. I mean, yeah, I think I'll have to stay with those two for now. I just think it's important. You look at the center market. I don't love it. I mean, maybe bringing Brock Nelson back and the automatic fleece job, that's your number 3, because if they could pull a quote unquote a Aroldis Chapman where the Yankees trade Chapman, get their prospect Gleyber Torres back, sign. I mean, you get Callum Ritchie, a 2026 first round pick, which is what it's looking to look like, and you get Brock back at a team friendly deal.
And that's probably William DeFore.
Right. So I would say Marner, Ehlers, and if you could find a way to get Brock back on a team friendlier deal than the rumored reported a little over $7.5 million annually, that's a slam dunk move. So I would say those 3.
Okay, beautiful. Listen, Stefen, we want to thank you for coming on. This has been a fun time, especially at Joe's expense. Hockey night in New York. Hockey news. The El Monsters, NHL.com. Where aren't you?
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, I'm everywhere, man. I just try to, I love the job that I get to do. I really don't take any of it for granted. And I have all these places to put tons of content. I don't ever run out of content. So I'm happy that all these places trust me with putting words on paper and speaking over the mic. It's been awesome and it's a great ride. And I'm just hoping to do this for as long as I can.
Beautiful. Take us along for that ride, bro. Great job. Keep it going. And best of luck to you for the rest of this season, man. Hope we see a lot of info from you.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great one.
Nice meeting you, Stefen.
All right, guys.
Take care.
All righty. Stefen Rosner of Hockey News, Hockey Night in New York. El Monters, NHL.com. He's all over the place. I got to give him credit. He's one of he works his butt off. He's definitely one of the hardest working ones in the Isles media. So kudos to him. Thank you for coming on. That was a lot of fun. All right. So, Joe, do you have anything you want to add? Is there anything we missed here for the most part? We covered Brock. We covered, who we felt needed to step up. We talked about Patrick. I'll get into the draft a little bit for myself. Is there someone that you want to see on the free agent list? Because listen, we're going back. We're going back to a time, and this is why I'm glad Stefen isn't here, because now we're going to show our ages here. We got to go back to like 2007, 2008, where we are literally talking about Bill Guerin, Mike Comrie, Ruslan Fedotenko, and John Sim as a big free agent splash. And I got to tell you, folks, with the amount of money that the Islanders are finally going to have, we can go back to a time when Yashin and Pekka, granted, we traded for them, but then we signed them to big contracts. We haven't had moments like this in a very long time where the Islanders have money to do something in free agency. And I think at this point, well, let me ask you, Joe. The fact that the Islanders now have money to play for free agency, could this take us to, maybe a step closer to at least the thought of a Stanley Cup run? Does it, and I'm not saying it's going to get us to a Stanley Cup, but it's just the idea of, okay, we don't have to do trading away picks or drafting to wait for this team to move up a ladder or two. We actually have the resources now as an organization to really go after somebody. We haven't said that in God knows how long.
A long time.
It's been a long time.
It's been a very long time. Look, that's the goal. The goal is to make the playoffs and get to the Stanley Cup and eventually win it.
Right.
So they got to sit down. They got to sit down and do their homework. I mean, now you have this money to spend. You got to bring the right people in now. That's the thing.
Right.
I have to agree with Tommy. I would bring in Brock Besser.
Yeah.
I think he's a perfect fit for our team.
Right. Right.
No,
I agree.
Mitch Marner, hey, if you could get him, fine. I mean, he's not going to hurt you.
A lot of money.
This is the thing now. You have Barzell, you have Horvat, okay? If you bring him in, this is the move that is going to bring you probably to that next level if you want to spend that money. But other teams are doing it, and they're bringing in big names, and they're winning. I mean, they're replacing, they're recycling their players, but they're getting the players that fit right. I think, I tell you the truth, Marner's not going to hurt you, but I like Besser being on our team. I like that move a little more than bringing in Mitch Marner. Okay.
And I agree with Rich here. Who's going to kidnap the player to get him here? Honestly, in Matt Martin, we trust.
Yeah.
But again, to Rich's point, Marner doesn't really want to go anywhere.
No,
he doesn't want to go anywhere. He doesn't want to leave Toronto. And the question is, will Toronto give Marner the money that he's looking for, or will Marner take a little bit of a hometown discount? But Rich makes a great point, and that's why we kid with Matt Martin and whatnot. So, there's always going to be that difficulty. But I agree with you guys. Brock Besser, he's kind of like that Brock Nelson on the wing. So Matt, Horvat or Barzell will certainly take him any day. So listen, before we get into water cooler talk, let's just have some fun here. You think Lou Lamoriello's coming back?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I think he's coming back.
Right.
I think this is going to be his last year.
Okay.
And then I think he steps up. He moves upstairs.
Yep. Quick question here. Does Lou relax on a no facial hair and number rule similar to what no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
No.
Playoff beards and that's it.
I do like Justin Brazeau. I do like him, Robin. I think he would make a great fourth line center. I have had my eye on him. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if things are gonna happen, but is Varley done?
That's a good question.
It is a good question, Mark. To be honest with you, we haven't asked only because we're never going to get an answer. Listen, if Varley is done, let's have fun here. It's water cooler talk time. If Varley is done, the contract now becomes an asset. Because if he doesn't pass his physical at the beginning of the season, then that's like another $2.7 million on top of the cap. So Lou's going to have a lot more money to work with than we may realize, and we don't even know what changes are going to come before the draft. And, like Joe said, that's a big mountain to climb to get into the playoffs. So if the Islanders land anywhere from 10th to, say, 7th, just in standings alone for the NHL lottery draft, they're in a really good spot for a retool.
That's a good question to
has
ask
great
everybody.
value. What's that?
I said, that's a good question to ask everybody. Do they think the Islanders make the playoffs? That's a good question.
Oh yeah, that's an easy answer. Do they move Varley, Enval, Mayfield, Pajot, and maybe Palmieri? I think Palmieri's going to stay. Everybody else, Greg, I got to tell you, again, Varley, I think we're going to find out later on. I think Varley will stay, but like we just answered, Varley may just be a contract asset if he can't play anymore, because then you're giving the Islanders a little more room to spend, if you know what I mean. Enval, Mayfield, Pajot. Look, Pajot had some value. He'll have more value at the draft. Mayfield, Enval, I'm going to say at most they're back here for one more year, just from a contract standpoint, because then the CBA is over, the new one's going to get ratified, and we'll go from there. But again, what does Lou have in store in terms of changes? We're going to find out. Do they have a goalie coming in from the KHL? I don't think so. I think I know the one you're thinking of. I think he's in the Swedish league, but I don't think he's coming in yet.
Let me ask you a question, or anybody out there. When was the last time you heard a GM say the team? Well, he basically saying the team's going to look different next year.
Yeah, there's changes coming.
Things are going to be different. Things are going to change. When do you really hear a GM say that?
Been a while. We finally had the opportunity to say, "Hey, there's changes coming." That's another thing for Islander fans. You got a lot of money coming in to spend for free agency, and now you got someone saying, "Hey, we're changing." The Barry Trotz defensive system is no longer going to work with the players we currently have. It's time to evolve to what probably what Patrick Waugh wants. We need way more physical players and skill, and figure out what we do with Dobson. I agree on the physical players, but I got to see a little more physicality from what we have already, especially on defense. I I don't like just the stick checks or the poke checks or whatnot. I got to see a little more physicality. I don't know if you want to say heart, but I'm going to go passion from Islander players in general. What style are they playing? What system are they playing? It's like Joe said, they're missing something, Anthony, and we just don't know what it is yet. So
You're missing a couple of Sutter brothers on the team. That's what you're missing.
maybe, yeah. Streaky uninspired player that we will overpay for, and we will be a mid player. Please no Besser. Okay. He is too much like what we have. Streaky, uninspired player that will come here and be mid. We can do better. All right, I'll go along with that, Louis. Give me someone who you want, whether it's in a trade, whether it's free agency. Let us know who you want. What were your thoughts on only moving Nelson as a sell-off and not unloading Palmieri? Well, here's the thing, Greg. As everyone knows, last week I played armchair probably for the first and probably last time. I asked you guys to give me 2 or 3 teams that you wanted each player to be moved to, and I played armchair GM, and Joe and I actually got some help from, shall we now say, a friend of ours who covers the Devils in some way, shape, or form. And they said, listen, we honestly love the show you did. You put in some of the work. The stuff that you had with the Devils, we knew you tried to make it as a joke, but you were kind of on the money with that. And what I had said last week was, if Brock or Palmieri were going to go to the Devils, the Islanders were probably going to try to take as much as they could. Probably a player, probably a pick, or a player to help them now, something like that. For example, Kyle Palmieri. And then we were going to do like a little wink, wink, little Lou handshake deal. Go help the Devils. We'll take care of you later on. You're already helping us, so on and so forth. But I did it as a joke because at the time, Hughes just got injured. And what we really realized towards the end, towards the middle of the show, or even parts of the beginning, was that he was out for the season. And from what we were told, that kind of messed up the trade with Palmieri because they really wanted to see Hughes and Palmieri on a line together, which really would have been, that would have been an interesting line for sure. So the Devils getting all those injuries, it didn't help the Islanders at all. And it was also one of those things of, do the Islanders really want to help the Devils at this point? So it was kind of a little bit of a catch. I was a little surprised that it was just Brock being sent out. We said that before. No one came back, not even a 15-goal scorer for 2025 fourth-round pick. Anything, nothing. But I can tell you right now, and Saravalli said this for everybody before, when Lou made that trade, Lou annoyed, and I'm saying that nicely, Lou annoyed so many general managers. Nothing would shock me if he wasn't allowed to trade with anyone for the rest of that weekend. Like, that was a solid trade, and I'll get into that at another time. But, the Islanders were a little handcuffed, especially with New Jersey getting injured and, other things going on. So it's not all on Lou. So, no, they're not going to burn Richie's contract. Richie should be going to the Calder Cup, to the Memorial Cup playoffs. He's doing very well in the Ontario Hockey League. He's Cal Richie. When I did my draft in 2023, I had him ranked around 13, 14, 15. But what I had an issue with was that everyone had this kid anywhere as high as 6 and as low as 29. It was just the consistency part of this kid wasn't there. Now, there's enough consistency that could he play in the NHL next season? Yes. But I think what the Islanders are going to do first is that they're going to do what they did with Isaiah George. They're going to send him down first, let him get used to the pro game, because I know there have been comparisons to Patrice Bergeron, which I can't stand. I hate it when expectations are put that high on prospects, any prospect. But even Patrice Bergeron spent a year in the American Hockey League. Now, if there are injuries to the Islanders and Cal Ritchie has got to come up and play a bottom six center role, I'm all for it. Let me get that out of the way now. If the Islanders have enough injuries, I'm very comfortable with the kid coming up and playing. I don't think he's going to look out of place, but what I want him to do is that I want him to get used to the pro game. There's a little more structure. The game is faster. I just want him to adapt. And I would love to put him on a line with Alex Jeffries. That would be me. But Cal Ritchie was an absolute steal. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's because of that steal, a lot of general managers were really mad at Lou for what happened. I agree. Minton is a better Bergeron than Ritchie. I kind of agree with that. And that's why I don't like, names like that being brought out. And when we talk Bergeron, we're talking like in a mold. And for Islander fans, I would go the Michael Pekka route. Michael Pekka with maybe more scoring, consistently scoring. Brian Trottier for some of the older folks here, but not in the early 70s or early 80s. We're talking maybe 85, 86, 87, where Trottier was more of a second line center, but he was very dominant in that position. I think Cal Ritchie can do that. Yeah, I do want him in Bridgeport to start the season. He wants Ritchie on the team next season? Oh. Okay. I'll be the first to say I'm against it. I'm against it. I hope that's wrong. Because unless that kid's going to put up close to 15 goals already, and literally put up 40, 45 points, but we'll see. I've been wrong many, many, many times.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and Joe will back me up on that. Who said that? Okay. If he's on the team, he's on the team. I hope he earns it, but we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. But again, agency may also determine that. Let's say we do get Mitch Marner. We're not going to have a lot of money left in free agency. We're not going to have a lot of money in the cap space. Maybe we do use Caleb Ritchie. We'll find out. What moves do we see the Isles making in the offseason? Oh, God. You know what, Greg? I want to get a big bag of popcorn and just watch. Because I got to tell you, guys, guys, girls, boys, ladies, gentlemen, we haven't been in a spot like this in years, if ever. Because think about it. I think through the draft, I think they're going to trade. I'm sorry, they're not going to trade. I think they're going to draft everyone in 2025. So for the first time in about 7 or 8 years, we're going to have a full complement of draft picks from 2023, 2024, and 2025 heading into free agency. Who knows what moves Lou makes? But you're still looking at a solid $10 million to spend. And if he honestly makes a team similar to what Patrick Waugh wants, which is more puck moving, a little more mobile, give me a little more sandpaper on that defense, give me a little more physicality from the forwards, a better penalty kill, a better power play. For me, I would rather just watch. I really don't want to try to figure out or play armchair GM in this case. But, Joe, I'm excited. Even, this should not have been a retool year per se, but there's a lot of money coming in. We're going to have a good arsenal of picks to use in the future. Like, as an Islander fan, we haven't seen this in God knows how long, and I'm just ecstatic for that.
Well, I'm just waiting to see what Lou does, because if he says there's going to be changes, then he has moves he's going to be making. And Greg, you asked, what I thought. Well, if the price is right for Pajot at the draft, I think the Islanders are going to make a move. If they have to move a defenseman to get a player that they want, I'm like Paul said, I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what happens. I mean, it's exciting. We finally have some money to spend. Let's see what they could do with it.
Yeah, and Rich, I'm glad you brought this up, and I love it when you guys put me in my place. I really do, because this draws in such a great conversation. Trottier in the same sentence as Richie. I only hope and pray. Brian Trottier, I just had a conversation with him a couple of months ago. He literally said, and we were talking about prospects and everything else like that. He's like, listen, before my rookie season, I was able to play in the NHL. I was good, ready to go. But Bill Torrey sent me down anyway for another year of maturing. And it ended up being a benefit, because then he was really ready to come into the NHL. I'm honestly waiting to see the maturity level on Cal Ritchie. He may show something at training camp, which would be phenomenal. The IQ to this kid is great. Like I said, my 2023 prospect ranking, I had him around 13. He's up there for me. But I'm not saying Brian Trottier, your Hart Trophy candidate. Brian Trottier, towards the end of his career, but still fairly good second line center, is Cal Ritchie's potential. And depending on who Cal Ritchie has on his line, you're going to see some decent numbers. What I'm a little hesitant on with Cal Ritchie at the moment is that I didn't see him step up at the World Junior Championships against the United States. There wasn't that clutch moment where I honestly was hoping for him to take control a little bit. Team Canada, you know who the players are. You know who you're going up against. And he's not going to be Michael Dal Cole. But I really wanted to see him have that step up moment. And I didn't see it. So for me, is Cal Ritchie going to be good because the rest of the team is good? Or is he going to be that player who can take control over a game when needed to, who's going to step up in that clutch moment? I haven't seen that yet. And I don't know if it's just circumstances or what. But I'm high on the kid. I like what I've seen from him so far. As you guys know, I don't follow the regular season as much. I follow the playoffs. I follow these prospects when they're under more pressure, when it's really on, when it's go time, when the time to win is now. And he's done very well in the playoffs. But again, let's see what happens when he finally hits the pros. Team Canada also canceled their practices. Absolutely. That's also going to throw in there. I absolutely agree with that, Angie. I suspect Richie will be on the wing at first and grow to center. God, I hope not. If that's the case, put him down at center in Bridgeport. Just let him get through even 40 games, guys. I'm not even saying he has to spend the entire season. If he's got it all together and there's a moment for him to take control of, then bring him up. This isn't one of the other prospects where I'm saying they're going to need 2 or 3 years and then you can bring them up. No, if the Islanders have injuries and they're really serious about making the playoffs, you can bring him up for a little more than a cup of coffee. But what I've learned, especially this year, is that, and we've talked about this a little bit, I feel that the junior leagues don't prep these kids, these players, well enough for the pro game. And I'm not talking about the National Hockey League. I'm also talking about the American League. They're not prepping them for what they need to do professionally. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll get into that Bridgeport staff a little later on. I'm going to have a small defense for them, but give me a few months. I already have that all set up for Bridgeport. I've asked around. I've got the info for you guys. I do it every year before the draft. So it's been a rough year for Bridgeport, but we'll go from there. A functional, competent AHL team. And again, that's going to be part of the draft, guys. It's going to be moving forward. I know you guys are really, there's a lot of, and that's the big one, Jim. There's a lot of injuries to a lot of the veteran players. Okay. All right. So let me give you a quick premise here. I got to fly around here. Joe, even in the minor leagues, when you've got 6 rookies, soon to be 7 rookies playing at least 30 games out of 76 on any league, you're not winning. You're just not winning.
That's a tough grind. That's a tough grind
right.
for
you lose one of your top centers. You lose one of your top wingers practically for the year, and you're asking these kids coming out of college, coming out of the minors, to suddenly be successful. They don't know how.
Right.
They just don't know how. And then you're asking basically 2 East Coast Hockey League goalies to play in the professionals. Like, it's tough, and I'll get into that later on during the season. When the season's over and we get to talk Bridgeport a little more in depth, I've got a couple of people ready to come in for that too. I'm not trying to defend Bridgeport, but Bridgeport has been a mess, and some of that was on the Islanders too. Let's just go there. But Bridgeport is tough. But if you want to start bringing the kids in, Cal Ritchie has to show that he can at least handle some of the, professional grind, even in a worst case scenario. Good question here by Anthony. Does D'Angelo come back? I hope he does. Him and Romanoff are awesome together. And which defenseman do you think get moved? You know what? That's up to Tony. If D'Angelo really likes the situation here on Long Island, the Islanders gave him a shot to come back. I don't see a reason for that. Why they can't do that. Which defenseman do you think gets moved? You know what, Joe? Just spitballing here, the slowest defenseman right now, which just might be Scott Mayfield.
Does he have a no trade clause?
He might, but at this point, if he continues to be benched for the rest of the season, I think that message is going to be delivered.
Yeah.
To me, and this is going to sound horrible because I do have his jersey behind me here. Ryan Pulock to Nashville might make a little more sense. Only because if that, Barry Trotz's defense first style may actually work with Ryan. To be honest with you guys, I don't know. But I think the slowest defensemen probably don't make it entering next season. But we'll see. We'll see how everything goes with the contracts and everything else like that.
I look at it this way. If the price is right for a player, I think he's going to make a deal. No matter who it is. I think maybe Barzal and Horvat, I would say, are the only 2 untouchables.
Maybe.
And I think if the deal's right for if the deal's right for Barzal, they would move him.
Right. I agree with that, Joe. I still think I don't think anyone is untouchable. We've said that before. It might be a locker room thing. It's time to clear out the locker room, whoever's there. Do you think Lou gives too many years like he did with Enval? Listen, Enval's what, 28? He's got 4 years left, 5 years left on that contract, whatever. The cap makes it easy for someone like Enval to get a job anywhere at this point. The problem that Enval's having is that he's not showing the consistency or the physicality. So what's the absolute worst that happens to him? He gets sent down to Bridgeport. And the Islanders save themselves at least another $1 million.
Right.
Okay. Mayfield has a full.
There
Yeah,
you go.
guys, we know this. We know this. But guess what? If Mayfield isn't playing, he'll waive it. And not just it doesn't go with Mayfield. It goes with any other player in the NHL. If you feel like you're no longer wanted, what are you going to do? You're going to lift that. The purpose of the trades or no trade clauses is just to give the player a little more control of where he wants to play. In Scott Mayfield's case, he may take anywhere just so that he's still playing. But that goes along with any player in the NHL. Holmstrom is a gem. Yes. He's finally showing it. Like I said, I just wanted this kid to shoot, and he's finally shooting. Get a little more consistency, a little more maturing out of him. I do like what he's doing. Fair enough, Dallas. I like this one, man. There was little to no movement this summer. I'm not falling for it again. I've seen this movie before. Yeah.
Wait. I want to add something to that. But we never heard Lou say there's going to be changes.
Right.
We never heard that.
We have heard we will do everything we can to improve the team if it improves the team or some other form like that. That is absolutely true. But Dallas isn't wrong here.
No, he's not.
No faith in Lou. Fair enough. Fair enough. Not a Lou mannerism. Holmstrom is a solid third line guy, nothing more. I would like to see him get the chance to prove that he could be more than a third line guy. You know, we've said this before. Franz Nielsen was a third line guy. But for a couple of seasons, he was a decent second line centerman, right? Josh Bailey was probably more of a middle six winger. But when you put him on a line with Tavares and Oposo, he dominated that line. That line made it perfect. I would love to see Simon Holmstrom, even if he just does end up being a third liner. There's enough years in his career right now where I would love to see him pull 2, 3, maybe 4 years of second line work every now and then over the third. Okay? Maybe we do see Mitch Marner. Maybe we do see another free agent, right winger. And then Cole Yzerman comes along. And then we're going to put Simon Holmstrom back on that third line anywhere. That's fine. Simon Holmstrom may be remembered as a third line winger anyway, and that's fine. That's where we had him to begin with. But there's no reason why we can't test him in his young career to see if he can be a second line center. He's played with Bo. He's played with Brock. He's played with Pajot. He's adaptable with all of those centermen. He's going to be a good utility guy. Definitely needs new and younger blood. Can't preach change and then keep almost the same team and say change is coming. Agreed.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out. Folks, I'm telling you, this is a situation, and it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. None of us have either been in a spot like this as a fan, or it's been a very, very long time. We're all in this for the first time in a long time, where we're going to have 3 years of draft picks and enough money to actually say, hey, we're going to go after a top free agent. It's been too long. It's been too long. It's about time. Thank God. Let's see where this takes us. You know, and I agree with you guys. We got to get younger. We got to get a little faster. And I got to tell you, Joe, we're not going to play who knows Lou best here, but Lou's got to have something up his sleeve. If he's already promoting changes like that, he's got to have something going on.
Well, you have a team that's not going to make the playoffs, so something's got to be done. I mean, they're stagnant. We're repeating. Right. We're falling into a funk now. Make the playoffs, get eliminated in the first round. I mean, you know, it's a never-ending cycle. But now you're taking a step back. Now you're not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So
right.
Something's got to be done. I mean, you know, listen, could he just be saying that? Yeah, you know, whatever it is. But in my mind, if a GM comes out and says there's going to be changes, then there better be changes. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan from day one.
Right.
You're shooting off your mouth. You're saying, hey, we're going to change things. All right. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me now.
Right.
The season ticket. Well, anybody that goes to a game, you pay good money to go to a game. You want to see the best product that your cap could put on the ice. Okay. Right. We're spending what all the other teams are spending. Why aren't we good? Is it the coaching? Is it the players? I mean, it really comes down to the product you put on the ice. It comes down to the players. But but it's like we said before, if they're running a system that you have defensemen that, you know, aren't fast enough or mobile enough, or they can't move the puck quick enough, it's going to hurt you. But if these are the things you're going to change, you opened your mouth. Now make that move, because the fans are calling you out now.
Right.
So that's it. You got to hold him accountable now. He opened up his mouth. There's going to be changes. Hey, listen, I'm all fine. I'm fine with next year taking a step back. If you're bringing in players in and they need some time to gel, you have a good mix of veterans, good mix of young players. Hey, I'll take a step back. But
sure.
After that, you know, things better start moving forward. We're not a small market team anymore. We're with the big boys now. When they built that new arena, got to start producing winners. That's it.
Agreed.
So
all right. Any other questions, boys and girls? This has been a fun show so far. Do free agents want to come here? David, it's a great question. We're going to find out.
Money talks.
Money talks.
Money talks.
You know, it's a great question because, honestly, do we really know? We had to trade for Yashin. We had to trade for Pekka. We got all those other players back in 2007 for 2008, but most of them are on one or 2 year deals. John Sims stayed longer, but you know what I mean? You know, This is an actual free agent for Islander fans. Beats the hell out of me. Should beat the hell out of you. No one's going to know. We'll find out, and we get to talk about it a little bit later on. So, Duclair came here for Waugh. That's true. Who else is going to come in here for Patrick Waugh? Who else is going to come in for 1 year of Lou Lamoriello?
Yeah.
Liukas and George will play next year. You know what? I still believe in the competition. I want George to earn it. You know, if George is ready, again, Joe and I have talked about this ad nauseum, and this is with every younger player now. This was George's first year. That conditioning over the summer is going to be absolutely crucial for his development. George now knows, along with Jeffries, all these younger players, they all know what it takes now, or what they need to do to play full-time NHL. The conditioning has to happen for all of them. They got to put in the work to do it. So I understand where everyone's coming from. They want to get younger. They want to get younger now, but the Islanders still want to win. They still want to be playoff competitive. And I think if George is in there now, I don't know if the Islanders, they got to have a better 5 in front of him. Do we need to get tougher? I'm going to go passionate for now. Passionate and belief in the system, because I think you see a little more roughhousing with that. But Joe, give me your thoughts.
I say yeah. We
You
have
want to see a little more Romanoff out of? Do you want to see a little more Romanoff from the players?
We have to have a little more moxie. We got to be a little, a little rough around the edges. What bothered me with this team this year, to me, they didn't seem conditioned.
Right.
They wore down like in the second period, and then they would pick it up in the third period. They never. I mean, I think I seen maybe one game where they played. I could say they played a full 55 minutes. I don't think they played a whole 60-minute game this season. I don't know if it's the conditioning,
right,
but I agree. We have to get tougher. The team has to have a little more moxie to them. They got to,
right.
They got to be a little more physical. But
Yeah.
And everybody needs scoring.
I mean, look, we lost Barzell for the year. We don't have Brock anymore.
Yeah.
We lost Duclair for half the season as well. And there's no doubt that's a true Captain Obvious moment. But again, the Islanders right now don't have enough offense starting next season to get themselves into the playoffs. There's absolutely going to be a need for offense coming in.
Can I just say something, Paul?
Sure, go for it.
Right. The hockey season's 6 months long, okay?
Sure.
If your team doesn't make the playoffs, you basically get 4 months off, then you got to start training for the next season, okay? If your team gets knocked out in the first round, okay, now you have 3 months off. You make it to the second round, you have 2 months off. You make it to the cup, you basically only have 1 month off before you have to start training again for the next season. So I don't see any excuse why this team should lag for too many games in the second period. There's no excuse. I mean, you look at the teams, like look at Florida now, okay? They went to the cup, they won the cup, and now they're having another playoff run. This is a team that's physically and mentally banged up, but they come every night to play. What are we missing? What are we missing?
Right. And again, special teams is going to be the big one, Robin. There's no doubt about it.
Always is.
Yep. And last in the conference every year goes for, again, the average has been 240. The NHL has evolved to where you need more offense than that. There's absolutely true. And this is what we're trying to let everyone know here. Who's stepping up this year with Brock no longer here? Is there going to be a younger player who's going to start having a goal spurt or showing some signs that they can score more goals? There's a lot of work to be done. We're certainly not going to have the answers tonight, but we got to finish out the season and see what the Islanders have.
Listen, who just posted that? Heart and soul players. All right, Anthony. All right, listen, heart and soul players. John Tavares was a heart and soul player. Kyle Opozo,
True.
Matt Molson. Okay, you could go down the line. When you have those players that just come every night to grind it out, they'll play any style game you want to play. You're going to win games,
right?
And that's what made those teams tough, especially that series when we beat the Panthers. You had players to come every night that gave it their all. I mean, I watch a game, I see guys just like what are you doing out there?
Right.
What are you doing? So that's a good point, Anthony. Very good point.
Oh, Mark, you and that Alex Jeffries question wants a show. No. I believe he did score a goal tonight. Listen, Alex Jeffries went through something that I was not, I'm going to say I was hoping for him to happen, but he just had a 15-game goal drought. And that's what I've been wanting to see out of him. How has he responded with a slump like that? Going through a grind, because this kid's only played 35, 36 goals a season for like the last couple of seasons. This is the most games he's played. This is the struggle that he's going through. This is the struggle that I want him to go through. This is another level of a test of character, kind of looking like in the mirror, like this is growth for him moving forward. And it's every other younger player as well. They're not used to the professional grind of a, of a kind of a season like this. We need Kachuk type players. Yeah, Kachuk type players and, power forward with speed. Yeah.
Give me Michael Renberg from the Flyers.
Here we go again.
I'll take that type of winger, or John LeClaire. You give me those big power forwards. Oh, go right to the net. Oh man.
Split Barzell and Horvat. We're going to need a playmaker for Horvat. Fair enough, but again, we're going to go back to the age-old question: who's going to play with Matt Barzell? We're also back to that question. Who's going to play with Matt Barzell? How many more players do we have to throw at Matt Barzell in order for any of this to work? Guys, we don't know. This is what we're going to find out over the next 3-4 months, and then heading into training camp. So, I don't know. No, Ishakov does not come back. He's got one more year left in the KHL. He's under contract. Stop it, Jim. So, all right, bud. Great show tonight. Where can they find you on social media?
I'm on X.
Yeah,
Joe Panettiere. Yep, X. That's it. Facebook.
Every Democrat there is.
I don't talk much. I don't talk much hockey on Facebook. It's more political for me. But
no doubt.
I pick up my Tesla tomorrow, baby.
I bet you do.
No electric cars for me.
No electric cars for you. Okay.
No.
Fair enough. So, listen, guys, been a great show again. We want to thank Stefen for coming on. We might be on next week. We may not be on next week. That's not nice. What the hell? We were going through the full show before you pulled that off, jerk. Anyway, jerks. No, great show, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. And listen, the intro takes a little longer these days because, groups like the Drive for Five, the worldwide group, Islanders Misery, all things Islanders, you guys are allowing us to have this show on your Facebook sites, and we are very, very appreciative of that. We thank you very much. We love the conversations that all of you guys have with us. That's why we continue to keep going a little longer than we should, but the conversations are great. Your humor stinks sometimes, especially at my expense, but I can't block you guys because you're the only ones we have left.
I love you guys. I love it.
Yeah,
Give
up.
It to them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you want me to do a Bridgeport next show? All right, Robin, let me talk to a couple of people, and we'll talk Bridgeport next week if I can. That way, we'll give Joe a week off. We'll give Gary another week off, and we'll go from there. But yeah, if I can make it work, I will do a Bridgeport show for you guys next, and we will clear the air if we can with them. So listen, guys, you can follow me on X at P_Kreischer. Please like, subscribe everywhere on the socials. Follow us on X at Isles Talk. Like on Facebook, please, and follow us on Facebook. And please, please, please hit that like button on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button as well. The numbers have been phenomenal. You guys have been great. And, next week, if I can, we're going to do Bridgeport and we'll clear the air for you guys. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of the season. If we can, don't pull your hair out. You'll start looking like Joe, and we'll get into the draft later on. Bye, guys.